Hello everyone, AMHarbinger here, and Gears 5, it's a breath of fresh air. As someone who's played every major installment in the series, I felt like these new series of games, Gears of War Judgment and Gears of War 4, was treading familiar ground and was too afraid to step out its comfort zone. Gears 5 does away with that notion, taking risks in both story and gameplay for the franchise's benefit. The multiplayer is densely packed with both cooperative and competitive options, ranging from the classic modes such as Team Deathmatch and Horde, to a new cooperative mode called Escape. It's unfortunate that the game suffered from many technical problems at launch that made progressing through the campaign a vexing experience, and there are some progression boosting microtransactions that devalue the sense of earning items in multiplayer. Gears 5's narrative takes a different route from the original games. While it still follows the act-based system and similar to Gears of War 4 largely captures the Gears formula, Gears 5 attempts something new, providing more emotional weight to the characters and their actions. The story opens with JD, Del, Kait, and Marcus returning to Azura, which fans from Gears of War 3 will remember, in an attempt to restart the Hammer of Dawn and use it against the Swarm. Tensions build as you learn new secrets, causing relationships to be tested and some bonds broken. Eventually, the Swarm showcase their new biological weapons and how much of a threat they really are. This leads to one of Gears of War 4's biggest cliffhangers finally being answered: Kait's family lineage. In addition, Gears 5 finally explores lore that weren't previously discussed outside the game, such as the origin of the Locust and how Kait's family fits into this entire new Swarm enemy. The story takes on a much more serious tone. The action is still there, but much more focus is put on the narrative than gunplay, to the game's benefit. Instead of having the players just survive difficult situations to build that bond, the characters talk to one another, share stories, and dealing with deeply personal issues among one another. This, coupled with the riveting, emotional, charged scenes as characters' facial expressions and fantastic voice acting, carry the most important scenes in the game to new heights beyond the previous game, which used cutscenes just to ferry the story along. Instead, here it's clear that the characters are the main focus of the game. However, you're never to forget that the Swarm is still the primary enemy, and the game constantly reminds you of that. It definitely follows a different formula than the original games, but it's a welcome change nevertheless, with Kait taking on the role of protagonist effectively and coming into her leadership role very well. This is amplified thanks to the fantastic voice acting and pacing. Before, characters were given the bare minimum in Gears of War 4, often voicing their concerns but then heading to the next objective quickly. Here, time is given to flesh out the characters and how they're reacting to the entire situation at hand. Despite all the positive features of the narrative's new direction, the story falls to the ground at the end. This is the second installment in the new series, and a cliffhanger is expected, but the execution is done extremely poorly. Unlike games like Dragon Age Inquisition, which set up the sequel very well, this game feels more like Halo 2's ending. After a climactic event, it just straight up ends, leaving the player cheated, almost like they were expecting a little something more to bridge the game to the next one. Maybe they'll come out with new story content that'll feel more fulfilling, but for now, Gears 5 just fumbles to the ground at the end. Gears 5 takes many of the existing elements within the franchise and either slightly modifies them or adds to them. For example, Jack plays a much more active role in combat and defense, now able to set traps, heal allies, and do multiple helpful things. Jack feels like he's more like a member of the team, instead of just a gatekeeper who comes out when you need a door ripped or a computer hacked. Improvements have been made to sprinting and shooting. Character movements have more weight to it thanks to the new animation, and shooting has some minor changes such as the reticles for certain guns and a beefier feedback. You still have a wide selection of brutal execution to choose from and weapons to take advantage of. You can carry 4 weapons such as 2 primary weapons, 1 sidearm, and 1 type of grenade. Much of the arsenal remains the same with a few additions like a saw-like LMG called the Claw. Enemy variety has also remained largely unchanged. New additions include juvies with grenades attached to their bodies, heavily armed Swarm, and a giant behemoth called the Warden that uses giant maces. The enemy AI does an effective job of flanking and charging, with each Swarm type using a variety of tactics. Juvies and Grenadiers will charge your location regardless of their own self-preservation, while drones will shoot from mid-range. The ally AI is a bit more problematic. Often I notice my AI partner would refuse to shoot or just get in the way of my shots. The biggest change is the linear structure of the story. Usually Gears follows a series of acts, one after another in a linear path. In Gears 5, this is still true to a degree, but instead the player is given 2 semi-open worlds to explore. These aren't true open areas, but they include an array of side missions that often yield special components and unique abilities for Jack, and also sometimes unique boss battles not seen in the core campaign. There is a cooperative option, but sadly there is no 4-player cooperative option like in Gears of War 3. Instead, it's a 3-player cooperative option with 2 players take control of the human characters and 1 player takes control of Jack. It works well and it's kind of fun, allowing players to experience different parts of the campaign if they choose to play as the other character, which often is not experienced unless you play in cooperative play. There's of course collectibles that allow you to expand on the lore of the overall game, but I did find it annoying that the dialogue can be cut off if you venture too far to your current objective. This happened too many times, and the gap between where there will be dialogue triggers are too short between. So maybe they should have kept it a little longer or allow you to continue the dialogue after the dialogue was cut off in the first place. There are sneak-in sections where you can ambush unaware enemies such as rejects, which are taken over DBs by the swarm, or of course swarms who are just unaware of your location. You can exploit this to basically clear an entire room using the stealth modification, but for the most part it adds another layer of element where you can thin out the herd of enemies if you choose to do so, or just shoot them all. For me personally, the Gears soundtrack wasn't always the best. It served its purpose and was complementary to the tone, which had this dark science fiction feel. But in Gears 5, it takes an entirely new tone. Instead of a constant, bleak, unsettling soundtrack, the new musical score uses a combination of hopeful and somber scores. Those who played the original game will definitely notice a dramatic shift in the atmosphere thanks to these new musical tracks. As for visuals, Gears 5 looks amazing. The character models match the expression of their respective voice actors and the environments are flooded with detail. The weather effects in particular look amazing, with particles of dust, snow, and embers shown during inclement weather when there's a ton of fire present. In addition, the environments tend to play a more active role in combat with certain situations and allowing for more environmental takedowns. But overall, the lighting, character models, and environmental design is absolutely spectacular. It's one of the best looking games on the Xbox One X, and the Coalition did a fantastic job. There's very little to complain about, especially the character models. The Swarm in particular look absolutely fantastic. Gears 5's multiplayer is absolutely humongous. It features a combination of classic competitive mode, horde mode, and a new mode called Escape. On the competitive field, there are 12 maps that have been provided, ranging from new additions like Icebound to old favorites that fans will recognize. Most come with a specific type of design with asymmetry in mind, but little details allow for a lot of complicated tactics. There are specific places where you can shoot a little further, ideal close quarter hallways, deadly environmental traps, and of course verticality. And knowing when the power weapons will respawn also adds another layer of strategy. Sometimes grabbing a power weapon so the enemy player can't have it also works as an ideal strategy in order to give your team an edge. Horde mode returns with the same principles. Build your stronghold using points gathered by killing enemies using the Fabricator. Survive all 50 waves and you win. The twist being that every 10 waves you face a boss who's a super powerful enemy, and then enemies gain increased health, damage, or accuracy. There's of course new items such as the ability to deconstruct weapons using a furnace, the ability to see the enemy's health no matter what, which is a big help during boss waves, and of course the ability to have AI allies fill in the slots for players who either quit too early or if you don't have a full team. The AI allies are serviceable. Don't expect them to be that great in a firefight, but they'll always prioritize reviving ally players above all, so they serve as a good option just in case you need slots filled. Escape is the brand new cooperative mode that has you and 2 allies attempting to escape a swarm hive after deploying a venom bomb. You're given the bare minimum to survive and must take on hordes of hostile enemies while scavenging supplies along the way. It's definitely one of the more intense cooperative modes, with rewards provided based on what difficulty you play on, same for the horde mode. I did wish that Beast Mode was included in the package. For those who don't know, Beast Mode was introduced in Gears of War 3 and allowed you to control the Locust horde while you killed COG soldiers. It was refined in Gears of War Judgment and offered a lot more layers to it, but I did wish you had the chance to control the Swarm in a similar mode. Now there are microtransactions, and for the most part they are pretty tame. If you want a certain cosmetic, you can purchase it directly using iron, which is the game's in-game currency. Unfortunately, there is also progression boosted microtransactions, such as the ability to boost the amount of experience you get, and the ability to purchase iron directly, which means you could just buy the cosmetics straight out, kind of devaluing the whole idea of progressing through the game and getting these cosmetics through playing it. I don't know how I feel about this, but the fact that you could just bypass progression and purchase your way through the ranks, it's annoying as hell to me. I know this is going to be a very unpopular discussion, but I have to convey this issues because it was my experience when I was playing through the game all weekend. Despite having an overwhelming amount of positive new takes on the Gears formula, Gears 5 suffered from a very large array of technical problems. The single-player campaign's most notorious problem was what I call the saving content of death. Often I encountered a situation where the game would attempt to save my progress, fail to do so, and lock me out from progression. This happened to me so much that I was dreading it every time a prompt would appear saying saving content. Worse is that only way to resolve this was to restart the entire game, go through the introduction, and restart from the mission from the previous checkpoint. You can imagine how angry I got when this happened during my insane playthrough. Oh, and sometimes the enemies would jump off screen, preventing me from completing certain missions. That was great as well. Despite some of these issues getting resolved as of now, I still encountered a very new glitch that annoyed the hell out of me. In a recent stream where the achievement linked to completing the campaign unlocked after completing the second act despite me having already beaten the game. In addition, the Insane campaign achievement did not unlock despite me completing the entire campaign on Insane and having record of this. At first I thought it was requiring me to play through the campaign with each character in co-op because each character has a different experience during the cooperative campaign. However, seeing that the achievement unlocked during Act 2 without having me complete any of the campaigns on co-op, I have to assume that this is another vexing glitch, and seeing that I completed the game on Insane, I am entitled to that achievement. Okay?
And you're sure when you saw
Crane lobby? So you see it's on Insane. Now watch. Yeah, whatever. Just to prove it. All solo. Completed on Insane difficulty. Every one of these acts are completed on Insane difficulty. And seriously, like, what the hell? It's saying that I didn't even complete 50% of it on Insane, unless it's saying that I have to do both in co-op and regular, which is complete BS. But then you guys all saw that after I killed the matriarch, this achievement unlocked. Like, seriously, what the hell? Is this like, what happened to releasing games that are finished? This is not a small glitch, this is a major glitch. Come on. Do I have to play the entire thing on Insane again? I don't know. It hurts me on a profound level as a gamer. Gears 5 is a fantastic installment that adds a lot of much needed changes to the game's formula. The campaign focused more on character development and cutscenes where the characters interact with one another and deal heavily on personal ties and problems. The multiplayer is richly decorated with competitive and cooperative modes that reward the player based on their performance and skill, with plenty of unlockables to earn that encourage you to keep playing unless you skip the grind and just purchase everything, which is still vexing. It's just a shame that most of these problems with Gears 5 has to do with the technical problems. A major issue such as the saving content glitch at launch, it's simply unacceptable. It wasn't acceptable when Bend Studio released Days Gone with those incredibly vexing audio issues, and it shouldn't be acceptable for Gears 5 to have these issues at launch.
Whoa, it's us! We, brought company.